the Golan Heights, and the West Bank. Those territories should be returned to the Arab people.
There has always been a very strong link between the Forces for Liberation in Apartheid South Africa and the Palestinian people, because we come from a shared history of oppression and occupation.
It is no use for Israel to talk of peace if they still hold on Arab territories which they conquered during the Six-Day War in 1967.
During the South African apartheid years, many in South Africa and conservative supporters of the apartheid regime globally argued, why single out South Africa? The reasons were very clear. This was one of the only states on the planet to have legalized, entrenched racism, where dependent on the color of your skin determined where you could live, what schools or universities you could go to, what jobs you could do, what public facilities you were and weren't allowed to use. So basically, your entire life was determined by the color of your skin. The reason that apartheid South Africa was further singled out because of its legalized racism and systemic abuse of human rights. Sadly, the reason for the focus on Israel today is not dissimilar. We focus on Israel because through its nation-state law and through its illegal and brutal occupation of Palestinian territory, it is not only creating an environment in which racism is entrenched in law, but it is also repressing and oppressing the Palestinian people on a daily basis, determining what they can and cannot do, determining whether they can get to schools and universities, determining whether they can get to employment opportunities or not. And this is being implemented in a manner that very closely resembles South African apartheid. So we focus on Israel today because it is one of the worst violators of human rights, because it does determine citizenship on the basis of ethnicity. And crucially, we focus on Israel, especially as Jews, because we believe that given the suffering and racism against Jews for thousands of years, most obviously encapsulated in the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were murdered simply because they were Jewish, we argue that we as Jews should, wherever we find it, call out racism, call out oppression, call out discrimination, because we know the true consequences of racism, discrimination, and oppression.